Good morning and welcome to Community Conversations. I'm Vicki Green. A great show today. And many of you listening will know my guest or heard his name, and some of you may not. But here's some clues before I tell you who's here with us today. He's essentially responsible for 182,000 people, an annual budget of more than $685 million. Okay, now some easy clues. He runs the second biggest city in New England, and that is Worcester, Massachusetts. Bigger than Providence, bigger than Hartford. It's been called by NPR the new It Town. In studio today with me is Worcester City Manager Ed Augustus. Good morning.
Good morning, Vicki.
Let's dive into a couple of big issues. We're going to get to the personal stuff, because I always like to ask elected and appointed officials a bit about themselves, because I think people want to know who Ed Augustus is, not just as the CEO of a city or who I read about in the press. So let's start out with an opinion piece you wrote with Mayor Joe Petty. You finished it by saying, quote, "We are the second largest city in New England. Let's act like it." What did you mean by that?
Having grown up in Worcester, I think for a long time Worcester had almost like an inferiority complex. We were self-deprecating. We would put ourselves down before we let anybody else do that. We didn't think we were worthy of some of the success that we're experiencing now. And that became a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so if there's one thing that I'm the most proud of about what's going on in Worcester right now, it's the attitude change, the sense that we are worthy of the success that we're experiencing, that it's a great city with great people, great institutions, and we have every right to expect to be successful as a city. And we ought to hold our head high and be proud of the fact that we're from the city of Worcester.
You've been in the position for 5 years, correct?
Yep.
And then your contract was up in 2020, but it's been renewed till 2025?
Yeah.
So you're in your job for a while, which is a good thing. It's continuity. People like you. I know you don't pat yourself on the back. You're not that type of person, but I'm here to pat you on the back because, that it's a tough job. You run the second biggest city in New England. So one thing that people don't understand in that vein is that Worcester runs our government a little bit different. Mm-hmm. It's a home rule petition is the technical word, I guess. But we have a mayor and a city manager. But in this city, the city manager really runs a lot of the show, right? And the mayor does sit on the committee. The mayor's elected. You are appointed. You are hired. You report to the city council.
That's right. We call it the Plan E form of government. It's one of the options that the legislature provides to local municipalities. And as you mentioned, Worcester is the second largest city in New England. So since the early 1950s, Worcester has been a city manager's form of government, which means that the city council that is chaired by the mayor appoints someone to be the city manager. There's a contract for a period of time. And that person runs the day-to-day operations.
Which is you.
Which is me. So I get the responsibility of appointing the police chief and the fire chief and the department heads, to make all of the budget recommendations to the city council, implement the ordinances of the city of Worcester, and make sure that the functions of city government, which are, vast. I always joke with school kids when I talk to them that before they got to the classroom, they had many interactions with city services, whether it be turning the water on and brushing their teeth and not having to think twice about whether the water was safe, and the water goes down the drain and it miraculously gets treated appropriately, and that's the city working hard, or the schools that they're in, or the sidewalks and the streets that they use to get to and from school. There's so many things that city government provides as far as services that allow people to not even know we're there. And that's a huge luxury. There's millions of people around the world who don't, have the luxury of not thinking about where am I going to get a clean glass of water, or where am I going to take care of, used water. Those become public health issues. And even here in the United States, you look at Flint, Michigan. If you don't have a city that is on top of those kind of core responsibilities, nothing else really matters at the end of the day. You're not going to get people to invest. You're not going to increase home values. You're not going to get the kind of job creation that cities usually are looking for if you don't have those core things right.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring that up because I know you have a background in education in different positions you've held. You were the youngest person to ever be an elected official in the city of Worcester. You were 23
Yeah.
when you were elected to the school committee.
School committee, yep.
So I know you have a tendency to go to those issues, but we also want to foster that, I think, in kids in politics. and that a city manager and the police, same thing. They're not bad people.
Yeah.
Because of all the things, especially with what's going on a national level and all the media, kids, in my opinion, kids get confused. Adults get confused.
Yeah.
So to hear a city manager say your water comes from here, it makes them think, oh yeah, as they grow older, maybe I should be concerned about that. Maybe I want to be involved in civics. Maybe I want to be involved in running someday.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
We need young people to feel the responsibility of, self-government. At the end of the day, when you look at a presidential race, you have the higher turnout. And yet you could argue that the president is so much further from impacting your day-to-day life. Now, not that the president can't have an impact on everybody's life, but your city council decides when your trash is going to be picked up. They decide your water and sewer rates, your tax bill, the quality of the schools that you go to, what the park down the street looks like. Those things look and impact you every single day, multiple times a day. And yet people pay more attention to the national stuff and a lot less attention sometimes to the local stuff. And it's probably inverse in terms of its impact on people's lives.
That's a really good point. I had never thought of it that way, but that's true. And that's why when we talk about today with you, things going on in Worcester, there are things that are easily brought up in almost any town or city in the state and the country. Everybody's facing similar issues, just to different degrees. So that's what we're talking about in Worcester. So the biggest topic right now is Polar Park and the Worcester Red Sox. The groundbreaking of the approximately $90 million, the number moves around, but $90 million Polar Park, baseball park, happened this week. Is the project on schedule, and what's your biggest concern about that?
It is on schedule. We're slated to open in April of 2021. That'll be opening day, so we're less than 2 years now between now and then. A lot to do, but we're on track. I think the thing that I'm most excited about is the idea of transforming 16 acres of contaminated land in the center of the city into something that is going to be a draw to people not only in the city and in central Massachusetts, but really throughout New England, who are going to want to spend a weekend in Worcester seeing, great baseball. About 90% of last year's World Series team for the Boston Red Sox had either come up through Pawtucket or rehabbed in Pawtucket. Mm-hmm. So you're going to see that level of player right here in the city of Worcester. I'm excited about the idea that on national sports shows, they're going to be broadcasting from Worcester, talking about the rehab of a given player who folks are hoping gets back to Fenway Park. And the attention and the spotlight that's having a facility like Polar Park affiliated with such an iconic brand as the Boston Red Sox, I think is really a unique moment in Worcester's history.
And I know that I had Dr. Charles Steinberg in, who's the president of the Paw Sox, and he were very cognizant of the fact that they tried everything they could to stay in Rhode Island at first, and that they don't, because we in Worcester, in this area, obviously want the same fans to come up here that go to Pawtucket. So we're not trying to alienate anybody, and we want to make sure that it's an easy ride. So we want to make sure those people come and experience Worcester, which is in the reverse. They may have never been here. And you know what? I think I've said this before, that you brought up inferiority complex, and a lot of people have, and that now we're coming because of the Red Sox. We're becoming the it city, and now people are looking at. There's culture though, Powwow Worcester. I mean, that's the painted murals all over the buildings. That's got national recognition when they talk about Worcester. But we've had. And I'm a cheerleader for this city. We've had good restaurants in this city for 25 plus years. And so to me, I think this city was great 25 years ago. And I think you would probably say the same thing. Now it's great they're getting the spotlight. But we've always been a great city, in my opinion.
We have. Worcester's been a wonderful place. Generations of families have been able to provide for themselves and their children, educate them. They built a great community here. Worcester was an industrial powerhouse in this country. If you go back to really the heyday of the founding of the Industrial Revolution with the Blackstone Canal, which really put Worcester on the map, and then
which
through
is no longer there. There's no water over there.
Yeah, it's in the city. It's all covered over, but the new visitor center that opened last year, there's an area where it's exposed. But then it was quickly put out by the railroads. Worcester is the busiest rail port in New England. You've got Providence and Worcester, Pan Am, and CSX. and a lot of freight, a lot of goods, especially now in this era of Amazon and deliveries. Trains are an important part of the economy, and Worcester is at the intersection of that. So Worcester's always had a lot of contributions that, we haven't always worn kind of proudly. I was just over at David Clark Company in Worcester a long time. They made the spacesuits. We're talking about the 50th anniversary of the landing on the moon. Those spacesuits were made in Worcester,
and
Massachusetts.
Robert Goddard.
Dr. Robert Goddard. We wouldn't have gotten to the moon
rocket
without him, doing his groundbreaking research. So there's so many things that, talk to the proud history, and we're creating our new future, embracing the knowledge-based economy, whether it be Gateway Park or the biotech park at the medical school. You got a Nobel Prize winner in medicine at UMass. There's just so many things that we should be really proud of here.
And I think those things are getting attention. I mean, we have a Chinese manufacturing. I had Kevin O'Sullivan in here because I used to work with him on some biotech projects. And it used to be back 15 years ago, one building, and they were out of the old St. Vincent's Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And now you look at Gateway Park and you look at, all the incubating companies that are getting bought out. But now this big giant manufacturing company from China, they're making their first U.S. location, $60 million at the old Worcester State Hospital behind, if people know where the Beechwood Hotel is near the hospital, and AbbVie behind there. That's huge. People, $60 million, that's going to be tons of jobs.
Yeah.
It's manufacturing. So we're getting back to that in a way.
Yeah, in some ways it's back to the future in the sense that in that case it's biomanufacturing. So they're creating biologics products that have been, invented or discovered, whether it be in the biotech park in Worcester or down the road in Kendall Square. But now we're actually be able to have facilities here and the jobs that come with them to create those biologics. And Wuxi Biologics, which you're talking about, will be the first anchor tenant on what's the campus of the former Worcester State Hospital. But there are 5 other parcels that are being put together. Some of the old state hospitals being torn down as we speak, to make way for pads that could be sold and developed for other biomanufacturing entities. So hopefully at full build-out, we'll have 6 different tenants, each of which will have, hundreds of jobs that'll add to the economy. And Wuxi is a great example. I call it a Goldilocks company because, a third of
Chinese
the jobs.
Goldilocks.
Yeah, a little mixed metaphor, I guess. About a third of the jobs are high school, some community college, a third are bachelor's degree, and a third are master's or beyond. So there's something for everyone in terms of the skill levels to be excited about creating this whole new industry here in the city.
Yeah, and I mean, the biggest thing, and depending on how you count, because people say we have 9 colleges, we have 13. I mean, it depends on how far out of the city you go, and if you count the Tufts Vet, the Cummings School, and other things like that. But essentially around 9, I like to say, plus colleges. And people don't understand how many students are in the city. And that, again, it's a revenue builder for other businesses in the area. And these kids, I know that Dr. Steinberg, when he was here, was talking about holding these, his little blue book.
Oh, fan plan meetings.
Yeah, fan plan meetings with the college kids. And, they were talking about things like what food do they want and things like that. And I think that might be some untapped potential. But back to the Red Sox. There's been contests and things about the nickname. What's your opinion on the Woo Sox? I mean, everyone has a different opinion.
I like the Woo Sox. I know that's, I think it was like 50-50 in their voting. What people, the other 50% didn't gravitate to one. They were spread out over a bunch of different potential names. To me, it's the most, natural. The Pawtucket Red Sox, which was their official name, became the Paw Sox. The official name is the Worcester Red Sox, and to call them the Woo Sox seems very natural.
So it's not a negative to you?
I don't see it as a negative. I know maybe at one time, but like a lot of negative words, sometimes if you reclaim them and rebrand them, you kind of turn it around. And I think, to me, Woo, there's so many. We have a Wooteria, we used to have Woo cards with the Cultural Coalition. We've kind of reclaimed the Woo.
Well, thank God, because I got my Worcester Woo Red Sox T-shirt printed up when they put them out, so I hope I don't have to get a new one.
No.
I'll stick with that. So I have to, there are negatives too, and been concerned about people that live in the area, businesses in that Kelly Square area. People are concerned about traffic. And if you don't live near here, I'm sure you've heard of it. Every Boston TV station has covered this as an issue. It's a very difficult traffic pattern there now, and they've been having meetings about changing it into this traffic peanut, which I've seen and I don't totally get. But there's businesses on the other side of where the park's going to be for people that haven't been to this area, where it's really, really been developed. And that was the old Water Street, which used to be a highly Jewish area, restaurants, delis. Now it's turned into a bunch of different restaurants and clubs and retail and all sorts of things. Crompton Collective is there, which a lot of people from out of the city come to. Birch Tree Bread Company, just to name a few things that have really had that side of the peanut really grown. And now some of these small business owners have concerns about, well, now is everybody going to, the parking and the traffic going to drive people away from my business? What would you tell them?
I don't believe so. I think that, what we're doing is taking what is ranked by Mass DOT as the most dangerous intersection in Massachusetts.
And that's the Department of Transportation.
Yeah. Kelly Square had the highest number of pedestrian accidents, vehicle accidents, and bike accidents in Massachusetts. So we were going to be introducing on a game day 10,000 new people coming into that part of the city, people who are going to be parking across the street, maybe with a stroller, a couple of toddlers, somebody in a walker trying to get across. We need to make sure it was going to be safe. And so working with the community, working with Mass DOT, they did a number of kind of public engagement sessions, got a lot of input, ideas, crafted a plan that, for something that had a lot of skeptics at the beginning, it really has created a bit of a consensus that people think that this takes into account all of their concerns. They want to make sure traffic moves. And the elongated peanut, if you will, which is kind of just a different version of a roundabout, cycles traffic through that area, still allowing you to have options for all of the streets that come or go from Kelly Square, but organizes the traffic in a way that the current Kelly Square doesn't.
You've got now the farmers market, all sorts of things that are taking off, and there's always that concern that that's going to now be overshadowed rather than be embraced.
I don't think so. I think what we're hoping to do is have more people experience that part of the city on foot than on car. If you think about the places if you go to Boston, many people are familiar with Newbury Street in Boston or, Charles Street in Boston, these places that are shopping areas or bars and restaurants. You're not looking to drive there. You want to get close, get out of your car, and then get on foot. And then you can walk. It's a nice walk. There's places to stop along the way. You see other people along the way. It's an engaging walk, and you activate the street. And when you activate the street with people walking back and forth, those are potential customers for all of these businesses. And that really is what the goal is here, not to get you as quickly as possible out of here or through here, but to when you get here, we'll have options for you to park your car and then come on foot and experience all that the Canal District has to offer. The Canal District right now has an awful lot to offer.
Well, I think that's the concern, that they don't want to lose that.
Yeah, and we don't want to lose it either. That's what brought the Pawsox here. That's what created this location as the right location. So the last thing we would want to do is negatively impact the folks that we're basically trying to help. And I think, there's legitimate concerns. Change is scary. Certainly there's a lot of construction that's going to happen over the next 18 months between the ballpark, the development that's surrounding the ballpark, the infrastructure changes. There's a lot going on, no doubt. The city's hired a parking consultant that's put together a parking plan for the district. We are, on the city's dime, renting some lots around that area that we will provide free of charge to the businesses and to their customers in that area.
Wait, free of charge parking for the current businesses? Or
yes, for the current businesses, so that during this construction period, they have a place that they can park their employees, have some of their customers park. The city already owns a number of lots that on weekends and nights we let people park there for free. That has helped support the businesses to get off the ground. But we're going to expand that during this kind of fragile period of the construction.
And that kind of brings up another issue about parking. There's been issues, and we'll just touch on this for a minute because if you don't live there, it might not impact you, but it is a tough issue and happens in other cities when you want to do a major project like this. There's current housing or businesses there that the city has to look at buying out.
Yep.
And there's obviously concern about the businesses that are there their buildings are going to be affected and have to move.
Yeah,
Even Table Talk Pies talked about a concern.
Yeah, we purchased 7 buildings that we needed to fit the footprint of the ballpark and some of the infrastructure we're doing around the ballpark. There's one that we've yet to do our deal with, but all of them were either negotiated sales or friendly takings. They wanted to be taken for a particular reason, but we negotiated the price. That's really unheard of. Usually you end up having to have contentious eminent domain cases and then have... There's been some concern, but we haven't had to take anybody who, didn't agree on the price. We've negotiated all those prices, except for one, the smallest property owner. We've been able to relocate those businesses, so no jobs were lost. They've all been relocated within the city. So we're keeping those tax-paying entities within the city. The businesses are important, but they were things like ambulance repair, things that don't have to actually happen there. There can be other places that they can do their business that, makes way for this unique development that we're doing here. So you always want to make sure you're careful when you're having to dislocate existing businesses. I think we've done it as carefully and as thoughtfully as you can, given the circumstances.
Yeah, and it's fair. There's going to always be an up and a downside. And then you look at, there's 2 hotels, I think, and then there's going to be retail space and all of that going in around there. So there is a concern among many folks, and even those I've talked to in the cultural community that are artists in the area or other folks that make minimum wage or their low-paying jobs, that if they live in the city and they're just scraping by to be able to pay their rent, that all of this new building is going to make, and things going on Main Street, we're not even getting into all of your $11 million redo of Main Street, which is amazing, and then all of the old buildings like the auditorium and Boys and Girls Club and all things that are getting redone. There's a lot of work going on in the city. But do you think it's a fair concern for people to be concerned that with all this new development, it's going to raise rents are going to be raised and they're going to be forced out? Can't live in Worcester anymore?
Yeah, I think it's a fair concern. It's something we're, making sure we're doing everything we can to limit and hopefully prevent that from happening. But there is going to be some natural increase in rent as the demand increases, and it is a supply-demand kind of situation. In the 5+ years I've been city manager, we've created or extended affordability protections on over 1,700 units of housing. Most of the projects that we do with direct city subsidies, whether it be the new central building downtown or the courthouse project that's underway now, there are affordability components to those projects. So we don't usually go in and just do all market rate. There usually is some affordability.
Well, we already meet the 10% state.
Yeah, we exceed it. We're almost 14%. So Worcester does of affordable housing. And Worcester does far more than its share of any of the towns in the greater Worcester area. So we certainly are doing our share to try to make sure that are affordable places to live. My hope also is as we create this development, we're also creating jobs. We're creating opportunities. Somebody has to fix all these buildings. Somebody has to be employed to do all of that work. That creates jobs and opportunities for people to maybe earn more money. And we've got programs like the Worcester Jobs Fund that the city funds that takes Worcester City residents, puts them in programs, gives them credentials, whether it be the building trades, CDL licenses, things where there's a skill gap. There's opportunities. We don't have enough employees, and we have Worcester residents who just need the credentials to get those jobs. So we're doing what we can to make sure that as the prospects of the city improve, we bring our citizens with us in that journey. We're not just doing it for the top level, but the people who, maybe have struggled get an opportunity to benefit from some of these developments.
Okay, so we don't have much time, and I want to get through a couple of really important things here. How many jobs, first of all, is this whole development park? Is there an estimate on jobs? I've seen the number change, and obviously it will change, but is there a number of how many local jobs this may create?
Yeah, we're saying in the hundreds. The thing that it's hard in the hundreds. It's hard to say exactly because the developer hasn't told us exactly what some of the retail establishments are going to be. And the office building, who he ends up getting as the final tenant, that will tell us a lot about how many jobs. The ballpark itself, there's only about 40 45 permanent full-time jobs, about 300 seasonal jobs. It's a seasonal business. But there'll be a lot of kids whose first jobs will be working at Polar Park. There'll be a lot of retirees who end up being greeters and having other jobs at Polar Park. So there'll be those kind of opportunities. The retail, the hotels, certainly will create job opportunities that'll be more permanent.
Okay, two big issues kind of tied together. I want to talk about the crime rate because I was misled or misinformed before I moved to the city 25 years ago and got the chance to ride around in a police car all night and realized that the tough neighborhood where many of the arrests were taking place was maybe a 5-block radius. And I think people that don't live in Worcester, people that live in other parts of the state, always are concerned with any big city, but with Worcester about crime and, concern about that. And when I looked at it, the Department of Public Health, well, that's the opioid we're going to get in a minute, but the police department and the number of crimes has actually gone down in 2018. Break-ins, stabbings, shootings, aggravated assaults, all down. And that's a good thing. And I think it doesn't, I've read in masslive.com and the Telegram, and they've done stories about crime being down. Do you think that's getting through to people? And do you think it's more community policing? We have more officers? I mean, I think people don't really understand that crime happens everywhere, but it often gets if you look at the numbers, it's actually going down.
Yeah, it's going down in double digits in most categories. It went down in 2017. It went down even further in 2018. For the second largest city in New England, if you look at murders, Worcester had a third of the murders that Hartford had, and Hartford is like 80,000 less population than Worcester. So you compare our numbers to Providence, to Springfield, to Brockton, to a lot of other cities in the New England area, and they stack up very well. So for a bigger city than all of the others, we have smaller numbers, whether it be murders, shootings. I give most of that credit to the Worcester Police Department. We have an amazing police department. Since I've been manager, I've done police classes and fire classes every single year. That's important because we want to keep the complement of officers. Every year you have a certain number who retire or leave the job for one reason or another. And the police academy, for instance, is a six-month academy. So if you're not constantly doing classes over a period of time, you're going to be short 30, 40, 50 officers, and it starts to have an impact on your ability to staff all of the different divisions of the police department, whether it be service division that are out doing the 911 calls, or your detective bureau, or your gang unit,
but that's not
or
an
others.
issue right now?
And it's not an issue. We just graduated 2 weeks ago, another class, 26 new officers. So I think I'm one officer, because somebody retired, below the complement of over 400 officers.
Now, on the downside, I guess, the opioid crisis, which is hitting everybody hard, it is a crisis. There's been recent articles published and stats from the Department of Public Health on this one saying that while the state rate of fatal deaths from opioid are going down, Worcester is essentially doubled in the last 5 years.
Yep.
What can we do about that? What are you going to plan?
It is a very bedeviling problem. We were one of the first cities to outfit our police and fire with Narcan. Those numbers would be significantly higher had we not done that. Every year there are hundreds of reversals that are done by both the Worcester Police and Fire Department. We extended that to other city employees who are in areas where we see large numbers of overdoses. So some of our library employees, city hall employees, because people come and use the public restrooms. We've done everything we could to kind of expand that safety net. We've done prescription take-back programs, which is important. You hear reports of open houses for real estate, people going in looking for unused prescriptions, maybe a grandchild, somebody in the family looking for unused prescriptions. We have really tried to work with the provider community, so we now have recovery coaches who are on staff with the city. Every overdose in the city gets a visit from a Worcester police officer and a recovery coach who goes and talks to them about whether they're interested in getting treatment and helps facilitate the connection of that individual to treatment. To be honest with you, most people are not ready, but what we've done is basically made that connection, open that door, so when they are ready, They have a phone number. They have somebody they've gotten to know over a period of time. We have a quality of life team that goes out proactively to some of the encampments that happen in the city, talk to people. We recently had an uptick in hepatitis C cases. They went out with the public health nurses. We were able to vaccinate the homeless population, many of whom do overlap with the opioid crisis. And our quality of life team had a relationship. They knew who was who. They knew where they were. They had that trust in that relationship. And, that's part of the way to get people when they're ready. You can't force somebody to get the treatment, but you can make sure that you have a relationship with them. They know you're a resource, and when they're ready, you connect them to services.
All right. So as we wrap up, I do want to get to the personal side. What keeps you up at night?
Everything that we just talked about. Can we get the ballpark done on time? How do we get the development in place that's going to pay for the ballpark and make sure that opens the right schedule?
Because if it doesn't, everybody's going to blame you.
If it doesn't, I own it. John F. Kennedy had a great line: "Success has many fathers, and failure is an orphan." So I want to make sure that this is a success. Crime, any given day, you could have a shooting, an incident, God forbid. A mass shooting, things that you see around the country. You're going to be on deck the minute that happens.
So that keeps you up.
Yeah, last December we lost Chris Roy, one of our firefighters. That's the nightmare call that you dread getting, that somebody who works for you was lost in the line of duty, police, fire, someone else. Those are the types of things that keep you up at night.
Can we end with a quick word association?
Sure.
I did this with former Lieutenant Governor, Mayor, and now head of the Worcester Regional Chamber, Tim Murray. And I thought you'd be a good sport about it. It tells people who you are. So I'm just going to give you a phrase. Some will be personal, some city, some just for fun. Polar Park.
Great.
Worcester City Council.
Great.
And you're smiling as you say that so people know, whatever that means. Gun control.
Needed.
Governor Baker.
Solid.
Worcester Police, Fire, and First Responders.
The best.
Okay, now the fun stuff. Favorite food?
Kelly Square pizza.
Favorite place to travel outside of Massachusetts?
Acadian National Park in Maine.
Favorite book?
To Kill a Mockingbird.
That's on Broadway right now.
Yeah, I'm dying to see it. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Last one. Best part of your job?
Being a cheerleader for the city of Worcester, getting to tell everybody else what I already know about Worcester, what a great place it is, filled with great people.
All right. Well, thanks for being a good sport, sticking around with you. You're here till 2025. We hope you stay as the city manager of Worcester, and I'm looking forward to more exciting times in the city and the region and more national exposure.
Amen.
I'm with you on that. So thanks so much to my guest today, Worcester City Manager Ed Augustus. Will you come back and talk again?
I'd love to.
All right. We didn't get to quite everything. We'll do it on another show. That's Community Conversations. I'm Vicki Green. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful day.